How's it going, guys?
Hello.
Good.
I'm CJ. First, I'll start with telling you a little bit about myself. I didn't serve in the military, but I come from a line of military service. My father was a Vietnam-era veteran. He wasn't deployed in Vietnam. He actually got out of service right before his unit went over to Vietnam. But he did do something amazing. According to him, it's because of him, everybody from Kansas to California is introduced to Budweiser and Ballantine. At least that's what he told me. So today we're going to be discussing the evolution of load-bearing equipment in the military, in the U.S. military, I should say. We're going to take a brief look at World War II all the way up to the 90s and modern day, with a big focus on Vietnam, because Vietnam is really where it really took off and things started changing and evolving for the need of combat. All right? Everybody good so far? Everybody can hear me?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. All right. So what is load-bearing equipment? Load-bearing equipment refers to gear designated for soldiers to carry their ammunition and supplies into combat. What initially began, prior to World War I, it was simple cartridge belts or like attaché cases with ammo and musket bags and stuff like that. But it evolved due to the demands of the battlefield. You were no longer fighting a linear war like we did in the Revolutionary War, where units would line up and shoot at each other from a volley line. So significant developments occurred during World War II when soldiers often went to riggers to have them modify equipment and gear used. And you notice that, how many people have seen Saving Private Ryan? All right, so when the Rangers are climbing the mountain, they're wearing a vest, which this is very uncommon because prior to that, you were issued just basic web gear. And that was something that, it kind of looks like a fishing vest. But that was a Ranger vest. Medics had a similar vest to carry medical equipment because they figured out you kind of need to have all that stuff readily accessible. And then riggers would make a pouch like this, so they took a Thompson pouch and cut it down for the shorter mags for the Thompson, so they could carry more ammo for the smaller Thompson. During the Korean War, the web gear didn't change much. At the end of World War II, they started dyeing some of the gear green, and that kind of moved on up to the Korean War. There was not a whole lot of changes. They made small pouch changes, like you had the M1 Garand pouches got bigger because the magazines for the M1 Garand or carbine got bigger. Moving on to Vietnam. So during the early days of Vietnam, you saw a lot of advisors still had Korean War setups. So they were still wearing, they were still issued carbines, M14s, and they had very similar to the Korean War setup. Moving forward, we had the M56, and this is the universal, every GI was issued, U.S. Army GI was issued M56 gear. And M56 is your standard load-bearing equipment. You have 2 magazine pouches, 1 or 2 canteen pouches. Officers would be issued a leather pistol holster. You had an aid pouch, and this was your gear. I don't know how many people have ever worn this gear. It could get kind of cumbersome just because it's loose, it's floppy, and you didn't carry much. You carried 4 mags, 8 magazines, which is a combat load, but when you're in a firefight, that goes really quick. Not that I would know from experience, but we've all seen the movies. So what happened was Special Forces units, they decided they needed something more because when MACV-SOG or LRP, when they went into the jungle, usually they encountered very, very hostile enemies and a lot of them. So they needed as much firepower as they could. So they would talk to their riggers and they would have stuff like this BAR belt modified to carry the ammunition for the M16 or the machine gun, whatever they needed to get the job done to have fire superiority. What they also started doing is, if you see, this has a canteen pouch. Guys figured, hey, instead of having loose grenades and loose magazines, we could fit a lot more magazines or grenades in canteen pouches. So then you see SOG operators with something like this, where it's all canteen pouches. So you go from carrying 4 mags to 7 mags per pouch. So now you're dominating the field of fire, especially when it comes to SOG and LRP teams. Their SOP, their standard operating procedure, was to make the enemy think that there was way more of them than there really was. When there was really just 6 guys in the jungle, they made it seem like there was 30. And so you kind of see the evolution of each piece of equipment in order to fight the battle. The problem is, with every GI issued M56, this is canvas. The jungle is hot. The jungle is wet. So what happens, that stuff gets gross. If you've ever had canvas get stinky and gross, it smells and it lasts forever. That smell can never come off of anything. So what happened was, they decided to go with M67 gear. It was now nylon and plastic. So it wicked water away, it didn't get heavy, and they actually added, well, they had drain holes on here. The early ones didn't have drain holes, but they actually added drain holes so if water did get in, they would get out. And this was like the first evolutionary step in that web gear. So the Marines, I can't talk too much on the Marines. I don't know all that much about the Marines. I do a lot of US Army stuff. But the Marines had their own set of nylon or of canvas pouches, a little bit longer, but they would also attach to their body armor. And that was the first of another evolutionary step, is having your ammo on your body armor, which is huge, because instead of having your body armor on, then your web gear over your body armor, having it all integrated in one, it saves your back, and it's just easier than stuff flopping around. So as you see, this vest here is another vest used by MACV-SOG, very similar to that World War II vest. Now you're years later and we're still using something similar because it works. You keep everything on you at all times. You know, you don't have gear flopping around. It's just a nice thing that you kind of see moving along. So going to body armor, the Vietnam War was really the first war where body armor was issued to soldiers. I mean, World War I you had armor, but it was very crude, and it was essentially like knight's armor. It was steel. You were running around with steel helmets and steel plates. So this was like the first time you actually see soldiers issued body armor. To this day, soldiers are still issued body armor. Every soldier gets body armor. It's evolved. It's not as heavy as it was anymore. But these are the 3 different types of body armor that you see in Vietnam. The M52A was early. Then you have the M69. Obviously, the number designation is the years that they were introduced. And then for air crews, you had the chicken plate. You talk to pretty much any door gunner that served during Vietnam, they pretty much said that those things went under the seat so you didn't get shot in the butt. Moving on, you also have rucksacks. So during Vietnam, even during Korea, you were required to carry a lot more than you were previously. So you would need, especially for the jungle, you would need ponchos, change of socks, shirts, what they call now is a whoopee, but it's a poncho liner. It's essentially a blanket. And you would need those things. So the rucksack evolved from a small little haversack that you would keep on your back to this is a lightweight rucksack. It's similar to the one there, it's just set up a little bit different. But this is what a GI would carry into combat on a long patrol. But it has everything you could possibly need. You have extra water. You keep small pouches for rations and socks. You would have an ammo can underneath for ammo or to keep things dry. You'd have magazines here. You could have claymores in there. You could have a shovel. Pretty much anything you would need, you have on you.
Can you put that on someone? Like, does that actually go on?
Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody want to try on the ruck?
Volunteer wants to put it on?
Come on up. And if anybody wants to try on any of this stuff later or throughout, more than welcome to come up and I could explain it more. Now it is very heavy. All right. It's probably like your fully loaded backpack. Do kids nowadays still have books? Like, yeah? How's that feel? And that doesn't have any ammo or water in it. Now imagine that with ammo and water.
Turn around so we can
Yeah.
see how you, wow. Wow.
Now imagine walking miles with that on your back. Plus having web gear underneath it.
How many pounds is it?
So it depends. When I have mine fully loaded, because I do reenactments, so when I have mine fully loaded, it's anywhere between 35 to 45 pounds.
Wow.
It all depends. Because I usually carry 4 canteens on there because when I do our reenactments, it's summertime, it's really hot, and I just try not to die of dehydration. But yeah, it's heavy. It's a lot. Another type of rucksack. This was issued a little bit later, and this was common with Marines. It's the tropical rucksack, and then the Arvin rucksack is one it's made by the Arvin troopers, so the South Vietnamese soldiers. It's their issued rucksack, which a lot of special forces use because it's lightweight, it's small, and they could keep it instead of having that whole big aluminum rack on them. Those still get heavy. I have one that I use, and that's probably 30 pounds fully loaded as well, so it doesn't save you much. So we'll talk more, like I said, we could talk more about the gear. Just want to touch base on some of the weapons used in Vietnam by the U.S. Early in the war, and you could talk to a lot of veterans, they love the M14. I don't think I've ever talked to a veteran that didn't love the M14. That was like their go-to rifle. And if you talk to any of them that were when they transitioned to the M16s, they hated them. The M16s were cheaply made, they were light, and they were a lot of plastic. So whereas the M14 was steel and wood. Both still see combat today. They're both still used in some variation in the service, so that just talks about their longevity. You know, that it's just a good platform.
Who makes the M14?
Springfield. But the M14 was also produced by, there was like 2 other manufacturers. I can't think of them off the top of my head because during the war they kind of shelled out to a couple different people. The XM177 is just a shortened version of the M16. That was primarily used by officers, especially in the early parts of the war. It was mostly an officer's rifle and special forces units. Due to its compact size, it was easy to get in and out of. Then you had your M40 sniper rifle. Pretty basic, just a bolt-action sniper rifle, like a hunting rifle. Sidearm, very similar to World War II in Korea. Really only officers, medics, and possibly radio men were issued 1911s. Then you have the Pig, the M60. That was the workhorse for the U.S. military. Their light machine gun. Why they call it that? Because it is not light. But that was still used today. Certain units still have a modified version of the M60 today. Then you have the M79 Thumper grenade launcher. It fired a 40 millimeter grenade. Multiple different rounds, pretty much anything you could think of, they fired out of it. They even had a flechette round, which was just little arrows that came out of that. Same thing, the Ithaca shotgun. It's just a pump-action shotgun. You didn't see a whole lot of it. As the movies portray them as every soldier had a shotgun, or every other soldier had a shotgun, they were a little more rare than that. They didn't see much combat. And then you have the M72 Law, which you see everybody has a Law. We have a couple floating around here. It's a rocket launcher, you know, designed for taking out just about anything. It'll explode. Anti-tank mostly, but luckily during Vietnam there wasn't a whole lot of tanks. Enemy tanks. Then as far as other miscellaneous load-bearing equipment, you were issued your magazines in a bandolier, which many decided to carry those bandoliers on them because they were lighter than your load-bearing equipment. And you carried more ammo. I have one tied around the bottom of the ruck for extra magazines. It was one thing you always needed more ammo. So that was a great way to carry extra mags instead of carrying an ammo can around. Then you had the 40 millimeter bandolier, which that carries 6 40 millimeter grenades for that M79 launcher. And then you have your M17 gas mask bag. The great part of those gas mask bags, you could fit a whole bunch of stuff in them. So some guys didn't carry gas mask bags because they had no, or didn't carry gas masks because they didn't need it. So they would use those bags for pretty much anything they wanted to keep dry. Notebooks, cameras, change of clothes, anything they wanted to keep dry and keep kind of safe could go in the M17. So evolving from Vietnam, because Vietnam, like I said, you saw it start from the World War II stuff and how it kind of evolved into what it is. When I was talking about the body armor, as Vietnam ended and we started going into the 80s, we were looking for a new way to carry our gear and not have it be loose web gear. So we had, from that M67 gear came Alice gear, which essentially it's the same gear, it's the same material, the web belt's different, and there's slight design changes, but this gear lasted all the way up until the early 2000s. We also used the LBV, which was meant to be worn over your body armor, and it kept your magazines in a vest. So that would also keep things tight on you. You didn't have these pouches just flopping around. And it kind of just held it all in that one package. Body armor. As you can see, the body armor is very similar to what we had in Vietnam, except for camouflage. You know, as we stepped out of Vietnam, there was tiger stripes, there was ERDL, but really the 80s ushered in M81 woodland camouflage, so the gear had to reflect that as well. And that's when you got the Pascat and the RBA coming in the early 90s. And then evolving even more from there, instead of having your web gear over your body armor, now you have the MOLLE system that we use today. That started in probably 99 to early 2000s. Now you have a vest with webbing on it, so you could put your pouches right on your vest. One unit, all on you, you keep it tight. And with that, the body armor changed. So now you're not carrying around, these still have plates, but you're not carrying around a big heavy plate. Now you have a couple different pieces of plate. You could take plates out and choose which one. If you wanted to run less plates, you could. And then you have the IOTV, which is, you know, the more global war on terror. That's what we used in the early days of that. And it's just full body armor, and your pouches are readily available. I should have brought one. I couldn't find it. But that's just like the evolution. You could see how it just evolved into pretty much being a mech suit to keep our soldiers safe. I feel like that was kind of a lot of information in a little bit. Does anybody have any questions or would like me to? Sorry, I'm usually not terrible, but.
So that last one is what is today?
So this is probably say 2007 to probably 2010. Today, the body armor changes so much today because there's so many different manufacturers that are making body armor, and guys can kind of reach out and kind of requisition a lot more of what they want. But the body armor, essentially it's the same thing. You're still running a web gear. You're still running your pouches on the vest to make it easier. The one interesting thing that's coming out more now, and you see it with more Special Forces communities, is we're going back to the body armor under the web gear. So this is an example of a Delta Force vest from the Battle of Mogadishu, where it was a body armor with a chest rig snapped to the body armor, so you kept it all. And now that's like the new thing. Guys are going, especially in the tactical communities, and a lot of veterans that are doing like contracting work and work overseas. You're starting to see a lot more loose body armor with chest rigs on top. So it's interesting to see that we're kind of taking a step back in tactical gear. Not to mention, I think that just looks cooler than most other things.
Okay, can I just say something about the armor?
Yes, absolutely.
When I was in Vietnam, the plates were about that. They weren't very even plates. They weren't metal or anything. They were about 3 inches thick. I don't know if it was described there, but they had ribbons on each side. You tie it almost like a shoelace. Terrible setup. Absolutely terrible setup. You know, no shoelace gets knotted and thing. It actually left your center exposed. Currently, and I had the opportunity to follow some stocks and stuff. I looked at it when we were going to start the first global war in 2001 or 2. A company that made braces, clear braces, out of California, started to make body armor because this stuff was so tough, and they would make sheets of it, and that's what wound up in the current the models, and that that was maybe only a 1/4 inch thick.
Yeah.
Then they started making them for the vehicles. When they realized they were blown up, they started making plates that they could just add on the vehicles. This company was eventually bought out. There was a couple companies that followed it. This company was bought out by private investors because the market was so big, and every truck now and every soldier or Marine has these Ceradyne panels on it. So it came from regular everyday stuff to use because of an absolute need.
Yep, absolutely. And the weight savings is incredible. From a steel plate to a ceramic plate is night and day difference. Yes.
Level of protection, is it nowadays like fragmentation or bullets or?
So nowadays, I'm not sure if they're running level 4 plates nowadays, but I know like early 2000, it was level 3. It was armor ballistic rated up to like an AK-47, so it's a level 3 plus. Not sure if they went higher than that because now I believe level 4 is like, it's probably 3/4 of an inch thick and it's probably weighs 3.5 pounds. So it's like night and day difference.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any other questions? I know I kind of breezed through a bunch of it. I'm nervous. I talking in front of people makes me nervous. Don't worry, I didn't picture anybody in their underwear. It's fine.
You're doing great.
Like I said, if you guys like, more than welcome to come up, try on any of the gear and equipment, ask questions. I do have some pretty interesting pieces. This was designed by an Air Force pararescueman during the Battle of Mogadishu, in order to keep first aid and magazines handy, readily available, so we need them. So pararescuemen are Air Force's pretty much special forces. You know, those guys, they go in, rescue down pilots, they rescue hostages. Those guys are the special forces of the Air Force. So this is like kind of a really neat piece to have because you don't see many of them. I actually had to have this one custom made because I wanted it that bad. But it's pretty neat to see how it's still going from that.
Does that go with your graphic?
Yeah, so this actually goes like that. I'm just trying to, sorry about the microphone, that probably got terrible, but and they would all sit right there. And then I have, so actually I'll touch base a little bit on it. We talked about the stable rig, how MACV-SOG would run the stable rig with the canteen pouches. Well, another thing that they needed was their operations were mostly over the fence. So they were Cambodia, Laos, places where they weren't supposed to be. So when they needed to get picked up, they needed to get picked up fast and quick and quiet. So you couldn't land a helicopter. So this harness system, before this harness system, they would have to make a Swiss seat. So what a Swiss seat is a rope that creates a harness, and you could hook up to it and get pulled out. This harness has these little straps. You undo those straps, clip them to the front. Now all you have to do is hook up to the drop line from the helicopter, and you get yanked out of the wood, yanked out of the jungle. Probably unpleasant because there's a lot of trees in a triple canopy jungle, but hey, it gets you out quick. So that's all I have. You guys have any questions?
I have a quick question.
Absolutely.
You've been mentioning a couple of abbreviations.
Yes.
Like SOG would be Special Operations?
So Special Operations Group.
What's the other one you've been using?
MACV.
MACV?
Yeah, MACV was, I'm drawing a blank now. Yeah, Military Assistance Command, Vietnam. That's what that was. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I was drawing a blank. Yes, those were like the Special Forces, those guys. If you ever want to hear some pretty good interviews, John Stryker Meyer is a former SOG guy, and he has a lot of really interesting interviews out there. He does one with Jocko Willick, who was a Navy SEAL during the Global War on Terror. He's a Jersey guy too, which is kind of cool, and yeah, he's pretty interesting. He also did Across the Fence is his book. It's a pretty good book on the MACV-SOG operations. Right. All right. That's all I got for you guys. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. Thank you.